One night I was in Poland. In fact, it was the first night we were there. And when we arrived in Poland for our crusades in Poland, we'd been invited first by the Baptists, and then they had been joined by all the other Protestant denominations, and they make up only about 5% of the total population of Poland. And we didn't know what the attitude of the Roman Catholic Church was going to be, but when we arrived at the airport, Bishop Misiewicz of the Roman Catholic Church, head of the ecumenical committee, put his arms around me first, and he said, "We welcome you to our churches. Our churches are open to you." I didn't know what he meant. And what he meant was the episcopate had had a meeting and said, "We are going to support these crusades." And they opened these huge cathedrals throughout Poland for us to hold our meetings in. They were Baptist meetings, but they were in the Catholic cathedral, and the Catholics felt free to come, and the nuns and the priests came, and the bishops came, and they entertained us beautifully. And these great churches packed and jammed with hundreds and sometimes thousands in the streets. And when I gave the invitation to see priests and nuns making their commitment, but that particular night I was sitting beside a Monsignor who is the head of one of the largest theological seminaries in the Roman Catholic world. And he told me an interesting story. And after I heard him tell it 2 or 3 times during my trip to Poland, I asked him if I could tell it publicly, and he said, "Of course, I'd be honored." He said, "I was getting my PhD degree at the University of Chicago. And he said, one day I was riding on a bus, and a black woman was sitting behind me, and she punched me on the shoulder, and she said, 'I beg your pardon, sir, but have you ever been born again?' He said, 'Well, I'm a priest, I suppose so.' She said, 'That's not the question I ask you, sir. I ask you, had you been born again?' He said, 'I went back to my room. I got down the Bible, turned to the 3rd chapter of John, and reread the encounter that Jesus had with Nicodemus. And he said, I got on my knees, and he said, I had an experience with Christ that lives in my heart till this moment.' He said, I'm not sure that was the moment of my rebirth because it goes against my theology. He said, my head tells me one thing, but my heart tells me something else. The only thing I know is that I have been born again. And I said, praise God, that's enough for me.